Hello, my name is John Brink. This is On the Brink, and we have a special guest today here in Prince George, downtown Prince George, in fact. And our guest today is Dr. Dennis Johnson, and he is the president of the College of New Caledonia, an amazing organization, and located in Prince George. And Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, John. It's great to be here.
So a beautiful day today, in particular, sitting downtown Prince George, and actually behind us we see downtown Prince George. It's a beautiful day for those people that are watching us internationally, and we have quite a few of those. Again, Prince George is about 800 kilometers north of Vancouver, one of the most beautiful areas with lots of outdoors, lots of lakes, lots of rivers, an amazing place to live.
Yeah, it certainly is, yeah.
Yeah, now your background, Dennis, are you from BC or from the region?
Yeah, I grew up in Vernon in the Okanagan.
Okay.
Born and raised, and like a lot of people of my generation, left in my mid-20s to go find work, and came back, left again for career reasons, and finally back again. So
where did you get your education and training?
So I started out right out of high school. I had the opportunity to apprentice as a carpenter.
So a carpenter?
A carpenter. So
okay.
Right out of high school, within a couple of months, I had an apprenticeship. And that was very good. I started in residential.
In Vernon?
In Vernon.
Okay.
Residential home construction, some light commercial. And then the Revelstoke Dam was being built. And so like a lot of people, I was sort of convinced to go for, higher wages, overtime, all of that sort of thing in about 82. Of course, the Revelstoke Dam was done by 84.
Yeah.
And then there was lots of tradespeople looking for work. So
you were working on the electric dam, or the dam in Revelstoke, right? How long were you working there?
Well, I was there twice, 2 seasons, and in between back in Vernon.
Yeah.
So, but between Revelstoke and work around Vernon, that I did my 4 years of my apprenticeship.
Yeah. Your apprenticeship for
carpentry.
Carpenter.
Yeah.
So you're fully qualified, classified carpenter.
Yeah. Red Seal journeyman carpenter. You bet.
Yeah. So in a way, from earlier conversations I've had with you, you're kind of attracted to lumber and the wood and things that you can do with it, right?
Yeah. So, as a carpenter, I think most people know that, it's construction. But I always had an interest, even in school, in the woodworking and building furniture and that sort of thing. So I did that as a hobby, and then a few years later, while working, I was able to work more on the furniture cabinet side, and I was able to actually work enough at that I'm also a cabinet maker. So I have a Red Seal also in cabinet making.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unique somewhat because you have a doctorate, and to combine that with furniture making and being a carpenter or a full tradesperson, hands-on, is very, very unique in your role as the president of a college.
Yeah, it's. I've met a few other tradespeople that have gone on to also do graduate studies, but it's not a normal combination. It does surprise people.
It's unique, different, right?
Yeah,
highly qualified for what you're doing, because it gives you precisely what the college is part of, teaching trades, uniquely the ability to relate to that, what it all involves and what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very good background for me as I try to move the college forward. You bet.
So what did you then do? How did you then end up in your doctorate studies?
Well, it's a bit of a longer story. It's an indirect path. I, like a lot of people in the mid-'80s, when BC's economy wasn't that good, and construction work was not very abundant.
Stuff all over the place, early 80s in particular.
It was tough, and the Okanagan was no different. And So had a cousin went out to Ontario, an electrician, and he said, "Hey, there's lots of work out here. Why don't you come on out?" And so I did. Construction was very good.
You were single at the time?
Yeah, I was single at the time, and so then you're, load the truck up and away you go.
Yeah.
And so I headed out to Ontario, and sure enough, within 2 days I was working.
Yeah.
I had lots of opportunity, a foreman, construction super.
In construction again?
In construction.
Yeah.
And then things started to slow down. And the project I was working on was a new trades training facility for Mohawk College.
Okay, where?
In Stony Creek. So Hamilton, Stony Creek.
In
area.
that area there, right? Yeah, okay.
So, so anyway, I found out because I was running the project, they were looking for a carpentry instructor for 2 months.
Right.
And my boss at the time, the owner of the construction company, was involved in the apprenticeship system. Okay. And agreed to lend me to the college for 2 months.
Yeah.
And that was 32 years ago. I never went back. So,
yeah. So that really became the trigger for getting involved in that program, right?
Right. So then I started teaching, and fairly soon realized that I needed more than just my trade to be a good teacher.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be a good tradesperson or a good subject matter expert at whatever you're teaching in a college.
Yeah.
There's also a whole art and science to being a teacher.
Yeah.
To being a good educator. So I did a degree in adult education.
Yeah.
And I worked away at that part-time for a number of years.
Where did you take that?
I took that through University in Ontario.
Yeah.
And, later on, further in my career, I did a master's degree, and then a little later I did a Ph.D. So
yeah,
it all was connected to the next thing I needed in my career path to understand the college and adult education, post-secondary education better.
That took some dedication, Dennis, because that is not a short period of time. That is.
No, it was a lot of years. The undergrad took about 10 years. We had a young family and all that at the same time, so working away part-time.
Did you you got married during the time you were in Ontario?
Yeah, when I was in Ontario, I met my wife, and things progress. And I've enjoyed the lifelong learning. Everybody talks about lifelong learning, but it's really been it's kept me focused on what the student experience is, because I was experiencing being a student at the same time I was trying to teach or administer or manage different aspects of the system.
So you had, in order to keep you on track, you must have had a clear understanding of where you wanted to go with it.
Yeah, I've always taken a long-term view.
Yeah.
The adult education degree was mainly the motivation was to be a better teacher.
Right.
But I also realized back in those days that if I ever wanted to move into a management position, I needed at least a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And then, later, once I had that, realizing that a bachelor's degree is good, but a master's degree is better in terms of career opening opportunities to move up in the organization. So
exactly.
It was all very deliberate, and all with the incredible support of my wife, who had to pick up a lot of the.
Which is critical.
Yeah,
right?
the things that I couldn't do because I was, writing papers and studying.
Yeah.
I had my wife's been supportive for 32 years.
Critical.
And she deserves a lot of the credit.
Yeah.
But it's
What's
been
your
great.
wife's name again?
My wife is Catherine.
Catherine. Yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah.
So it's been a great journey, and when I finally finished the PhD, I actually missed being a student for a while.
So now we are still in Ontario. You then got your PhD there.
No.
During that time, or were you then on the prairies?
Yeah. So post-secondary and like economies has their ups and downs.
The reason that I'm so particular about finding out, because I think it's such a unique story that you have, that for people to understand that it is not just the one step further and further, that you can do both. And obviously you need supportive family, but it can be done, and it kind of brings you then to the levels where you ended up being, and you're going to tell us more about, obviously, but that's why I kind of like the way you explain it to us.
I'm happy to share. It's I don't find it that interesting, but I'm glad you do. So
and our listeners will.
Good. So the thing about back in the 90s, I'd gone to Ontario when it was booming, but 10 years later, it wasn't booming anymore.
Right.
So I was in the college system. Economy was in tough shape. There were government cutbacks, and I was part of a large layoff at the college at the Mohawk College at the time.
In Ontario.
Yeah. So that was our opportunity. By then, we'd started a family.
Yeah.
It was time to get back to BC.
Yeah.
So we
How many children do you have?
We have two.
Two? Boy, girl?
A boy and a girl.
Names?
Brendan and Megan.
Okay.
And both still in Saskatchewan. So, But
and have their own careers?
They're both in university and hopefully graduating. Well, my daughter graduates in the spring from law school.
Law school,
and my son is still experimenting and working on what he's
finding his direction.
Do. Like so many, I was laid off, returned to BC. Was lucky enough to end up in a permanent role at then University College of the Cariboo in Kamloops. Now people know it as Thompson Rivers University. And so I was there for
that happened in the 90s, right?
That happened 2005 is when it transitioned from, but I joined in the 90s. And so then I did my master's degree while I was there, but it's actually from Newfoundland, Memorial University. I did it distance, online.
That's tough too, right?
It was,
you have to be very disciplined, right?
You do have to be a very disciplined, and a lot of students in the last couple of years with the pandemic have learned that. They've had to study online in part or completely online. And you do have to get really good at your time management, and you can't procrastinate.
Exactly.
But, it does provide an opportunity. If I hadn't done that, at the time, there was no local option for a master's degree. TRU offers master's degrees now, but at the time.
But not then.
I would have had to either leave town and.
Which would have been very difficult.
I was working full time. So I was able to do my master's degree while working full time.
Right.
Because I did it distance education.
That again shows people that aspire to that how lucky we are that now, partially because of COVID, but also because that can be done even if you're not close to an area, and still carry on another career or build your career at the same time, but it takes dedication.
It does, and I always say you have to decide what part of your free time, your discretionary time, you can give up. For me, it's watching television. I've never been a big TV watcher.
No.
And so it's amazing how much time you can find if you just don't watch television.
Exactly. So then you had your master's. Now the next step is to the Ph.D.
Right.
That process, what is the process around that? You do then a lot of writing in a particular direction. Explain to us and our viewers what that involves.
So I think PhD programs vary somewhat from discipline to discipline and from institution to institution. But really the idea is that the end result is you help contribute new knowledge to the field. Right. So to do that, there's coursework to get you prepared, and there's a lot of reading and writing to sort of research your topic, and then you finally decide which area you want to try to create some original research so that you can contribute to the overall knowledge of the field. And my field is educational administration.
Okay.
So I did that process. It took a little over 4 years.
Yeah.
And at the time I was a dean in Saskatchewan. We'd made another move by then.
Okay, so where in Saskatchewan?
We were in Saskatoon.
It was a fairly major university, college there,
Yeah,
right?
it's a Polytechnic, which for those that aren't familiar, it's kind of they have a foot in both worlds. It's more college.
Kind of a hybrid.
Yeah,
both, right?
It's more college than university.
Right.
So for people in BC, BCIT is a polytechnic as well.
Right.
They offer degrees, but they still do trades training and a lot of other vocational training.
Correct.
So I think it's an excellent blend, especially if it's in a community that needs the full range.
Yeah.
So by then I'd moved out to Saskatchewan. And I was lucky enough that the University of Saskatchewan was right there.
Yeah.
And I was able to do a traditional Ph.D. program and not an online program, because as much as I enjoyed the master's degree, I didn't want to do another 4 or 5 years distance only.
No.
So I was able to enroll at the U of S and complete my doctorate. So.
And then, so you were there for how long? With your family?
So almost 11 years.
Yeah.
So left just shy of 11 years, and all at the same institution, Saskatchewan Polytechnic. But I did have about 5 different jobs while I was there. So
right.
Yeah.
Within that organization.
Within that organization.
Yeah. And then from there, what year are we in now? At 11 years.
Well, I came back 2 years ago, 2019.
Yeah. So then at some point, the family got together and said, or you probably said, "Hey guys, sit down. I'm gonna share something with you. I'm thinking about."
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, are you sitting down now, Prince George?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'd talked. The whole family, because the kids spent part of their time growing up in Kamloops.
Yeah.
Because my family's still in Vernon, and summer holidays and vacations whenever possible, we're always back to Vernon.
Yeah.
We all have. We're all drawn back to BC.
Yeah.
I think even my kids one day, but who knows what happens with adult kids? They'll make their own destiny, but
it would be not surprising if they went back to BC.
Yeah, and they were very supportive. It's like, well, if you guys can go back to BC, Prince George is a beautiful area.
Yeah,
everybody loves the outdoors.
Yeah,
and so they were very supportive.
Yeah,
and my wife, once again, very supportive of the move.
Yeah,
we're having a good time here.
And you were appointed the president of the College of New Caledonia.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago.
Yes.
And and then for our listeners, tell us a little bit about the College of New Caledonia, other than in a general way for those that are not as familiar with the area as we are, or people that are in the area are. Is Prince George is. I call it the capital of northern BC. It's about 80,000 people. It's exactly in the center of BC. It is a transportation center with roads, air, and rail, and likely poised to grow substantially as we go forward. There's no question about it.
I think so.
And the college, an amazing organization. It has satellites throughout the region. Maybe tell us a little bit more about it then, from your experience.
Sure. So as you say, CNC, College of New Caledonia, is our largest campus is in Prince George. And as you say, we're the gateway or the capital. I also say to people, it's the last Costco north.
Yeah.
Right. So people come to Prince George to get their shopping, to get their necessities.
Yeah.
And all things seem to come through Prince George. To serve the north, and that's also true of education. There are a couple of other colleges in the north, one on the coast, Coast Mountain, and the other one up in the northeast corner, and they actually serve a a big chunk of the further part of the province north.
Right.
But CNC serves the north central area, and we have campuses in Burns Lake, Fort St. James, Mackenzie, Vanderhoof, Quesnel, and Prince George. So 6 campuses.
6 campuses.
Yeah.
How many students would you say?
So it depends on how you count students. There's different ways they slice and dice students that are full-time, part-time.
All together.
But just to give people an idea, we might have 5,000-6,000 individual students
Right.
In a year.
Yeah,
So,
and throughout all the different ones.
yeah. And on lots of different types of programs.
Yeah. And then again, to put it into perspective, is that Prince George, as I say to my friends from the coast, is the northern half of the province. And also to put it into perspective, the northern half that generates about 80% of the GDP of the province,
Yes.
and is poised to grow in the future, and so will the College of New Caledonia as we go forward.
Absolutely. So I've had an opportunity to engage with leaders from construction, healthcare, a number of other industries, and everybody's facing the same concern. Where's the workforce going to come from?
Yeah.
CNC is absolutely, we're critical, we know that, and we're going to do everything we can to work on that, because as you say, the economic activity is largely our region and north, and everybody's challenged right now with where's the workforce going, where's the skilled people going to come from?
Yeah, and then I think it was about 25 years ago that I got quite involved personally with the College of New Caledonia right from the beginning. But then we knew that to find the trades and technology was critical, and so we were able then to put together enough financing with participation by us to acquire the store that was next door, and it became the Trades and Technology Center.
Right. Yes.
And doing that, it carries my name. I was very honored by that, obviously. But one of the speeches that I gave then, the same applies today, is that it will not be access to raw material, it will not be access to market, it will not be entrepreneurship, it will not be capital or any of that, but will deter investment in northern British Columbia of the existing and new investment, will access to a skilled workforce.
Yes.
And that's why I got so involved with the college. And then when you came here 2 years ago, that was also the same time that I made a contribution to the college for $1 million towards a center of excellence, which would lift us to the next level. And we were quite involved. You were quite involved. I was quite involved in it. And it is still very, very much alive today, of where industry, and I believe more and more people are realizing that we must do something like that as we go forward. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. So, one of the challenges, of course, as you say, there's concerns about access to material, the annual allowable cut for forestry, but there's also a lot of concerns about how much value we get out of the resources that are available, how much we do cut. And so, it's an old saying, it's an old adage, but it's still true. We have to work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
And so that means we have to get more value out of the timber that's cut. And that innovation is only going to happen if we have the right people. So we need to, have something like the Center of Excellence concept, where we can be the center of new ideas, training, innovation, and I think that way we can really contribute to the viability of the industry
Yeah.
and the local economy.
And again, become an example of what can be done. Obviously with the realities, as you indicated, of reducing AEC, at least in the midterm. In the long term, I believe the future is absolutely fabulous for the forest industry, but the industry is in transition. It means it has served us well, making dimension lumber for the mainly U.S. market, but now the industry is changing, where we have to add more social and economic value and do more with less. And I think the stakeholders are contemplating now as to what will they do, how will they go forward. But there's no question in my mind, nor in many others, that the future is in adding more value. That means making new products for new markets, also in terms of creating new technologies, robotics and come to mind, and all kinds of other technologies that can be developed here, so that again it will become, from far and wide, people love to come to Canada, and especially to BC, but come here to see an industry that has emerged from challenging times into a new area. Right. And that's kind of what I see is going forward. I believe the industry will be changing and will not be recognizable 5-10 years from now. And I believe there's a great future for the industry. But what's critical is to developing those skill sets, and the center of excellence that you and me have talked about so much, if we have done so much about it, must become reality.
Yeah, I think we're at a really good time. As you know, there was some efforts a couple of decades ago to push the industry more to the value add. I guess I would say that it wasn't the right time. But now we absolutely need to move forward, and I think this is your idea, that your concept of the Center of Excellence and your contribution to CNC to help make it happen. The timing is great, and we're going to do everything we can to try and move.
And the other part about it, Dennis, is that I talk about it all the time. Whenever I have an opportunity, and I've been quite involved, and obviously the Council of Forest Industry is the umbrella group that represents the industry, including the big ones, the big companies as part of that, and and I'm the vice chair of that organization, and wherever the opportunity presents itself, I bring them on board. Canfor has indicated they are on board, and so will the other ones be. There is no question in my mind. Yeah. And at the same time, wherever the opportunity presents itself, I talk to government about it, and and I believe, as you do, it's all a question of timing, and the timing is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think a lot of us have also, with the pandemic, a lot of other things have had to move to the background a little bit.
Yeah.
But as we're starting to emerge, I do think that this is a great time to carry on the work.
Yeah, and the other part about it, which I find somewhat unique, and with your background in particular, and that's why I want to talk about your trades involvement. You're a Blue Seal carpenter, furniture maker, and you attune to all of that. But we have to develop and have that background. At least you are, in my opinion, the ideal person to drive this forward from the College of New Caledonia's perspective.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my hand skills are a little out of date and rusty now, but I do have a foundation in that world, and I think it does help. Yeah, it helps.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then just again for our public that are watching us, another thing that happened to Prince George about 30 years ago now, I believe it's 30 years ago, that we were able to find funding for a freestanding university, which was a challenge as well. Now the two organizations work closely together in a lot of ways. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, so for people in the region, incredibly fortunate to have a full choice through the two institutions. Nobody has to leave, and in fact, we attract people from elsewhere to come and study here. We have students that, they may take one of our programs that leads directly to a job, a 2-year diploma, a 1-year certificate. But then later in their career, when they decide the time is right, they can go on and do university studies, degree studies. We also have university transfer students that they can do the first 2 years of a degree at CNC. And for some students, that's a good option. Our classes might be a little smaller, for whatever the reasons
Makes
are.
it that much more effective, right?
Yeah.
In a way.
So for whatever the reason, some students choose to start their university classes at CNC, and then they transfer up the hill, as I call it, to UNBC and finish up and get a bachelor's degree. And then, of course, they also have the option. There's graduate studies. UNBC is really a gem to have in Prince George and serving the North. So whoever was involved 30 years ago was, thinking about the future. And of course, when I grew up, I talked earlier about growing up in the Okanagan. Back in those days, there was Okanagan College, and you could do a little bit of university transfer. But if you wanted to complete a degree, you were moving to the Lower Mainland or Victoria. So we're really lucky to have UNBC.
It was a big challenge at the time, and a group of people. I was a riding president for the riding that got the university, and we had to work hard on it and persist. It was a big battle, but worth it. It had to be a freestanding university, and it changed Prince George, and together with the College of New Caledonia, and next the Center of Excellence with the College of New Caledonia will change not only Prince George but the region. It will change. The other thing I was going to mention to you is that we had a meeting, with in our office a couple of months ago, I guess, and we had 6 or 7 people around contemplating where do we go with the company, strategic things. And then I started looking around the table. Every single one of the individuals was an alumni of the University of Northern British Columbia.
Ah, okay, great.
Including myself as having an honorary doctorate, not quite like the other ones, but
that's great.
Which was unique in the way. And the point that I'm making is simply this: is that the university, which was one of the arguments that we made at the time, it will have the people stay in the North and work in the North and build the North. The same will happen, with the Center of Excellence and the College of New Caledonia. Once we have that will develop the skill sets, that will develop new ideas, not only in manufacturing, but also in terms of developing new ideas, new concepts in manufacturing, including new technology as to how it should be done, where it should be done, and that's all will happen here. And I believe the next thing that will happen here in Prince George is, and you are from a construction background as well, is that mass timber and CLT, I believe is some of the next technology that is already being developed and will be further enhanced as we go forward. And a lot of the building that the way it has been done now will all change as we go forward.
Yeah, I think, we've seen, even in my 40 plus years since I apprenticed, there's been a lot of technology change and advancements in construction, and it's only going to continue. Yeah. And there's lots of smart people, including people at UNBC, working on those challenges. And we're, as you mentioned earlier, we're ideally poised to be a big part of that. We've got the resources, we've got the people, and there will be technology and techniques that haven't been even developed yet that will add to the viability of our resource base here.
Yeah, and then the other part about it then is as people contemplate from around the world as to everybody loves Canada, like there's no question about that. I know that from myself, and then with all due respect to the rest of Canada, we love that too. But BC is unique, and then northern BC in particular, you can be sitting here. You got two major rivers, you got thousands of lakes, you got all the things that you can possibly imagine here for outdoors. Good communication if you so wish to go to other places from here, but there is no place like it. And then in terms of attracting capital and investment and entrepreneurship, that once we can see that we are committed to making sure that people get trained in new ideas and the forest industry will be exemplary, even with the adversity of saying less annual avowal cut and a number of mills will shut down, but will emerge from it is a value-added sector that will change. And what we see in the future is innovative primary, different than it was before, attached to intensive secondary, where we extract much more value from that log with whole new ideas and whole new concepts, and that will still involve all the majors as well, but what will be emerging is that secondary cycle that stimulates new ideas and new concepts.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, even growing up, there was lots of mills around Vernon, the beehive burners, all the stuff that just went to smoke.
Yeah.
And now you look at what they're doing, extracting what used to be a waste product. Your business itself, taking smaller, low-value pieces and turning them into high-value, and there's more to come. We just have to figure it out.
Yeah, the pieces that we are the largest finger joint manufacturer in Canada, if not in North America, and where we take small pieces and glue them together. There was no standard for it. Nobody was doing that until I started it in 1975.
Wow.
And so today we have 3 or 4 different companies, one in Prince George, or 2 in Prince George, one in Vanderhoof, one in Houston, and looking at expanding, and we employ more than 400 people, and we will likely double in size in the next 2 to 3 years on the lumber side. That's then other things that we are doing is in logistics and warehousing, which is also poised to grow, and then we do also real estate. But what I'm saying, it's vibrant. The future of northern BC is immense, and the opportunities are immense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was all part of our decision to move here. It's a wonderful area, nothing but opportunity, and you want to be part of a community that's moving forward and growing, and not going backwards. And Prince George has been, and the region has been excellent.
Yeah. So then, kind of looking a little bit further forward, so are you kind of looking at further expanding the satellite facilities that you?
So not expanding them, but improving what we have.
Right.
So the regional campuses, as we call them, they are certainly smaller than Prince George.
Right.
But they're just as important to the communities and the areas they serve as the campus here in Prince George is to the people in Prince George. There's always been a bit of a struggle, though, to say what should they offer.
Right.
In some of these smaller communities, it might not be obvious where the jobs are or where you can put a program on that is going to be full under regular terms. So we're working very hard right now in our new strategic plan that CNC just completed and the board approved in the spring.
Right.
Makes it very clear that we need to work on some of the foundational issues of just being a good college. So that means looking again at how we decide what to offer, how we work with the partners in the community. I was just in Vanderhoof yesterday. I met with the mayor and council, and they have a nice new campus. They're very pleased with it. And so now we have to work really hard to plan what kind of programs can we offer that are viable and make sense in the community.
Yeah.
What are the jobs? What are the students interested in?
Yeah.
And what do they need? So So no plans to expand, but definitely plans to develop, grow within those existing campuses.
So one of the things that we always been challenged with is that in our operations, people are very difficult to find with any skill sets for that matter.
Yes.
Ideally, what we would like to do is, Vanderhoof Specialty Wood, which I own, is a good example where we try to employ 1/3 female, male, and minorities, about 1/3, that kind of a ratio. Where I believe there are more challenges and opportunities is especially with First Nations having much more access to fiber as to become participants in the economics around it, and how can we, the challenge is always how do we help them in developing skill sets among their people and entrepreneurial skill sets, so that they can become more proactive, not only having control over a certain amount of the AAC, but also to do more with it.
So, the key thing is to listen to what they want. And, that's certainly something I've come to appreciate is I can't come with the answers. I don't have them.
Right.
But we can work with them as partners.
Right.
And support their needs. So we do that. Particularly in the regional campus areas, a lot of the students that we serve are First Nations.
Exactly.
But they have a very big say in what the program's going to be and what's needed in the community. As you mentioned entrepreneurship, there's actually an Indigenous entrepreneurship program starting. I'm not exactly sure when it starts, but it's on the books to start fairly soon. And that's at one of the regional campuses. And I think there's potential to expand it to more locations if it takes off. So, but again, this is driven by the First Nations telling us what they expect, what they need, and then us trying to be a good partner and listen.
Yeah, it would be good to get entrepreneurship involved with those programs too.
Yeah.
Because especially then, because sometimes what we do, we meaning in a general sense that, I'm always proud of the fact that I have very close relationships with First Nations all throughout northern BC, and have always worked with them fairly closely. But how do we get them to get more involvement? Obviously, by more access to fiber, likely they will end up with at least 20% of the AAC will be designated towards First Nations. Now, how can we go further with that in terms of having them more involved in the workplace, in specialty jobs in particular, but also in terms of entrepreneurship? How can they be more involved? And I believe very strongly in what we have to do is be more involved in growing more fiber per hectare. How can we be more effective on the working forest, grow more fiber, and all of those things. And then for industry, better understanding each other in terms of needs, and how can we make that uniquely able to create those skill sets by having organizations like the college working with entrepreneurship and First Nations, and having dialogue that will really stimulate those kind of things.
Yeah, it's it's top of mind. I think one of the things that I've come to realize from some recent meetings is there's a lot of knowledge already within First Nations. So, but the opportunity to share and have conversations has been impacted by the ongoing pandemic.
Yeah.
But once we're able to do that, since he's going to look at, can we host conversations, get-togethers to share the things that have worked in other jurisdictions, sort of be the organization that can bring everybody together to share the knowledge, because there's lots of good economic development happening, First Nations and non-First Nations, but but they don't always have the opportunity to talk to each other. So we're hoping that we can play a role in that.
Yeah, and so the way I see it always, Dennis, as we talked about, right from the beginning, the Center of Excellence, I believe, becomes a catalyst for that as well. Yeah. And to have them involved as part of the founding members of that organization, I believe is extremely important. And I will be, I'm having a podcast with the chief of some of the First Nations in the next couple of months, and Claytonese Janae, and and Psychos, and some of the other ones in the Cosley bands, and but I believe to have them involved and the vision around the Center of Excellence will be extremely important.
No, I agree. That's great. It's great.
So then, kind of looking forward in your career, is that you got your plate full here in Prince George, and obviously you're enjoying the area. What do you see in a general sense in terms of the educational system in the province of British Columbia?
Well, I think there's lots of need for us. There's no end of demand. I think we'll all be thinking about where the students are going to come from, the students that we can educate and train so they can go to work for companies like yours and the economy that we've been talking about. I think the need for us is going to continue to be very strong. So from that aspect, the future looks very good. The challenge is definitely the demographics and getting students interested in some of the areas where there's an opportunity. The Canadian demographics, as most people know, graduation rates in many areas, including ours, are declining. So each year there's a few, smaller graduating class coming out of high school. We really have to work on a system where international immigration plays a bigger role to more sectors. Right now, the Canadian system, it's of course driven by the federal immigration. They control student visas and work permits for those students, and ultimately their ability to stay and work in the community. It's a system that allows, there's no connection to where the jobs necessarily might be and what the students are coming to study. So I don't want to suggest we need to regulate that, but we need to do a much better job of educating those incoming students that there are other programs, there are other communities where you can, get educated, stay, raise a family, have a good life. We're going to need to attract immigrants that want to work in all sectors. For our economy to stay vibrant. And so that's going to be a big challenge, I think, for the post-secondary system. Because the domestic market, as we call it, that's shrinking. Except for in a few urban areas where it is growing, but mostly it's shrinking.
And the reason for that?
Just not having enough babies.
That then being said, there is a demand for more workers, and we have, as a company, tried bringing in foreign workers, but the Canadian political system works against it. And I believe there is a disconnect, severe disconnect between Ottawa, and I'm not talking politics now, liberals versus conservative, but I'm simply saying there is a disconnect in terms of understanding, because it's not only here, it is all over the place, that there are we have the availability here, the room to bring in more willing foreign potential workers, and you know, and I believe that's one of the areas that should be fixable, but the message is not getting there. But it's not only here, so it's Alberta and all across. And I believe that message has to go out there, because that will become the deterrent in terms of how do we grow, how do we expand, where do we get the people? Because we're fighting that battle already for years.
Yeah.
And every time we try to bring in foreign workers, the government is working against us.
Right. The good thing about students that come to study in institutions like CNC and UNBC is there is a pathway to a work visa and potentially immigration. It's a great opportunity for Canada, and it's a good opportunity for the students that want to come and learn and then stay in Canada. But it needs some coordination as far as the visa process, where students go, what they come to take. So a lot of students that, international students that come now, they tend to go to the same programs. And that's great, but we're not doing a good job of telling them, hey, there's other programs over here with great jobs waiting. You don't all have to take, tend to be a lot of students go into business programs. And that's good, but they don't necessarily work in the business field. They may end up working in something else. So we need to have them across the, understand the opportunities across the board, because healthcare, lots of opportunities. That's going to be a number one challenge. And some great career opportunities in forestry, forest-related products, manufacturing. But right now, the international students are not educated while they're being recruited, that you can take all these other programs. So that's work for us to do, but it's also an opportunity. Yeah, interesting. So what I conclude from all of that, what you were saying, is that a great future ahead. As long as we can coordinate federal, provincial,
we must,
and fine tune the policies. Then Canada we need the next generation.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Dennis, that was a very interesting conversation, and again, it's always a delight to have you and talk to you. And obviously, the Center of Excellence very, very much still on my mind, and and we will be working closely together, you and me, bringing others on board to make it come through for Northern British Columbia.
Yes, no, it's great, John. I really appreciate this opportunity today, and I'm excited about working with you.
Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
And so this, again, another podcast with Dr. Dennis Johnson, an amazing future for British Columbia, and I hope you enjoyed our show. Thank you very much.